Okay, good. Finally. Hey, everybody. This is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary. I actually had to restart my device because it was not connecting live. So I imagine some of you were trying to connect with me and it kept getting disconnected. So um, right now, all of you who are watching are people who are watching the replay. So shout out to you all on Facebook and my YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And I know we'll have some people joining live. We do have some people joining us. That's great. So we're going to do a 2020 forecast. I'm going to tune in intuitively and see what's coming. But before I do, let's go ahead and get the logistics out of the way. And we'll just do that real quick. So if you are new to me, or even if you're not, I want to go over a bit of information on how you can get more if you like this video. I do have a lot of free stuff out there, so you can go to my YouTube channel at youtube.com and type in Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and you'll find tons of videos on personal empowerment, spiritual empowerment, and psychic protection, and even spiritual warfare, just that whole spectrum. So you can choose how intense you want to get on there. And I have two free Facebook groups. This Facebook Live is in the Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group, which is our group where we talk about more intense stuff like spirit attachments and spiritual warfare and some serious empowerment stuff. And then my other Facebook group, my other free Facebook group is it's on the softer side because I knew some people would need one thing, some people need the other, some people need both. So the other group is Spiritual Empowerment Community with Maya Zahira, and that's me. And so there's a lot of opportunity to get free interaction and get what you need. That's one of my goals is I want to make sure it's really important to me that no matter your income level or your financial situation, that you can get support. After everything that I've been through, when I was in the throes of some really intense situations, I made a vow to make sure that I was putting content out there for everybody. I have had some friends who love me so much. I love them too. And they've said that they think I'm putting out too much free stuff. I'm giving away too much free. And I get what they're saying, but I'm still going to keep putting a lot of free content out there for you guys. That said, I am thinking about doing Patreon. You've probably heard of it. And simply utilizing that website as a way to create some like members only videos, because there's stuff that I'm looking at and considering regarding spiritual warfare that I'm not quite ready to share with the public. But if we had like a real special little group, and the Patreon, like the special members only thing would be like $12.99 a month or something like that, like Netflix. And I'd still have all my free stuff, and I still would have my paid program. And so if you're in my paid program, that's not going away. But I'm thinking about doing just this kind of like a step, because some people aren't ready to make the financial commitment to the 12-month program, or maybe want a little more time to get to know me, or just kind of want the insider, like it's like the insider scoop kind of videos. So let me know what you think about that, you guys. We haven't gotten into our content yet today. 2020 forecast is what I'm going to be doing, but just kind of going over announcements first. What would you think about whether you're already in my paid program or not? What would you think about having like a little insider group where there's a couple of videos a month that are like this, but we talk about things that maybe I wouldn't talk about on here in the public forum. So let me know what you think about that. If I mean, it would be the same as like a Netflix, paying for Netflix every month. And then anyway, let me know what you think about that. I'm just kind of toying it around. I started to get that idea this afternoon, and it felt like it was coming from inner wisdom and not from here. Like, this is something I'm supposed to do. So let me know what you think about that. Now, as always, we have some people joining. I would like for you to say hi and where you're joining from. And I'm going to do shout outs. And I'm looking at my notes here. If you would like more information about what I do, looking at my services and my program, my 12-month program, or working with me one-on-one, you can find out about that at my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And let's do shout outs, and then we're going to get to our really cool 2020 forecast. And I have 2 pages of notes, and we have lots of stuff that we're going to go through for our forecast. I think this is the first time, this is the first time that I've done a forecast video for you guys, so this will be fun. I do forecasts all the time, but I do forecasts all the time, but I haven't done one on a Facebook Live video or a YouTube video, so this will be fun. So, hey, you guys, go ahead and start talking. Let's get involved, because once I start doing the forecast, it's going to be a whole lot of me talking at you. So go ahead and say hi and where you're joining from, because I might know you, but you all don't know each other. So, and give me some hearts too. Give me some, you should be able to press like the thumbs up or the heart in the menu, hopefully. Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys are just being real quiet, I think. Okay. So let me talk to you a little bit about what we're going to go over in the forecast, and by that time hopefully we'll be ready for some shout outs. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at the energies of the whole planet, what's happening in regards to the entire planet, so not just looking at your individual life but the whole planet. Going to be looking at, oh my gosh, my cat is having an episode over there. Anyway, so we're going to be looking at, we got to keep it real, right? We got to have like comic relief. We're going to be looking at politics. We're going to be looking at the money, the energy of money coming, happening on the planet right now. We're going to be, okay, I'm just going to stop right now. Okay, I'm just going to keep it real. My cat is over there puking. It's really distracting. Poor kid. And it occurred to me, she was doing that before I started. Okay, sorry to gross anybody out. She's done. She's okay now. But I thought to myself, ooh, we must be getting ready to bring in some really intense energies, because my cat, suddenly she's feeling the energy and she's getting an upset stomach. Okay. And also I couldn't get my Facebook Live to start. It wouldn't connect. And I thought, okay, so there's some resistance happening, because this energy forecast isn't your typical energy forecast. Okay. This is, I'm just going to check here. Okay. Yep. You guys are, there's all the comments. Man, I was like, why are you guys so quiet? What's happening? I couldn't get them. So, yeah, so it's interesting because now I'm a little bit scattered because there's been some stuff happening. So let me just tell you. So before I got on Facebook Live, I was working this afternoon, working with clients, and then I logged off and I went out and sat out in the sunshine for like 10-15 minutes and just grounded, meditated, and just got ready for our Facebook Live. And earlier I also meditated and brought in a whole bunch of information and took these notes of what we're going to talk about. And then when I got ready to set up my device, then my cat started to get sick. And then I was like, oh my God, I gotta like turn on some air freshener. I turned on the essential oil diffuser because I was like, oh my God, there's something happening. She's feeling an energy shift, right? Sorry if that's TMI about my household, but I'm just telling you how it is. And then I went to start the video and it just wouldn't connect and wouldn't connect. And I thought, okay, so there's some bit of energy resistance happening. I am going to be talking about spiritual warfare kinds of issues, especially as I go on. That's going to be some of the later focus in my message. And sometimes when we're talking about stuff like that, there are the negative powers that be that really don't want us to be talking about this stuff because it empowers us. So that was, I'm just pointing out that was interesting. And the other interesting thing, just as an FYI, is that usually any kind of interference like this is usually pretty minor. It only is a big deal if you make it a big deal. If you're like, oh my God, I'm so scared, I'm going to share this message and my device wouldn't work. It's like, no, just keep going. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's only a big serious deal if you make it that way. Okay. So let me go ahead and do shout outs and then I'm going to talk about the forecast finally. Okay. We're 20 minutes in, or I don't know when I eventually started, but we're at least 10 minutes in and I'm just jibber jabbering. So thank you for hanging in there, those of you who are on the edge of your seat waiting for the message. Carol says, hi, Maya from Parkville, Missouri. Tana says, howdy from Kansas City. Melissa, hello from upstate New York. I forgot that's where you were from. Sherry says, hello from Kansas. Kenzie from Kansas City. Jeannie, it says Jeannie, Kenzie, and 5 others are watching with you. Carol says, my Wi-Fi keeps cutting out. Yeah. So let's hope that we get through all of this message without too much interference, and we'll just see how it goes. Okay, you guys? And we have many more of you watching live. Thank you for being here. And I really feel like I love doing Facebook Lives because rather than just me turning on the video and talking, I feel like I get to interact with you. Sometimes often you have really important things to say and important questions to ask. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here. Okay. So as always, I got to glance at my notes here because I know I was going to forget something. Okay. Here's how I do forecasts, and it might be a little different than how other people do it. I honestly don't pay too much attention to other people's forecasts. So this isn't based on anybody else. I have seen that there are forecasts out there, so I know that. How I'm able to see future timelines. I am clairvoyant, so I can see things. I'll see imagery. I'll see symbolic images. I'll see movies in my head or in front of me. I'm clairaudient. I'll hear messages. I'll hear words. I'll just know things. I'll feel things empathically. I'll feel emotions, different kinds of feelings. And all of that put together ends up being snapshots of information of what's to come. Now, when I see people's future timelines or the future timeline of the upcoming year, how I see it is that there are potential outcomes. There are potential things that are happening. But rarely do I ever see anything that's totally set in stone. Okay. That's because every living thing has free will. And so I will see that things are going a certain direction based on everybody still continuing to do what it looks like they're doing. Okay. But then if somebody totally steps out of line, then it can reorient the whole timeline. Okay. Also, I think of a future forecast, or when I look at a future forecast, I'm also looking at the what I call energy cycles. Your personal astrology, by the way, can affect your personal energy cycles, but also I see other kinds of energy cycles in people's lives, and it reminds me of, like, the best way that I can describe it is it's like weather. So if you are trying to plan a family reunion picnic outside, and the weather forecast is for torrential rain, then your picnic is probably not going to go very well, especially if it does rain, right? So let's say the weather is going to be rain, then chances are that the picnic is going to be really unpleasant, and the whole process is going to be so much harder unless you plan accordingly. And or if it's supposed to be sunny and mild and a beautiful day, then it's going to go easier. It's going to be much more pleasant for everybody, right? That's often what I see when I see different energy cycles coming in for an individual or globally. We're looking more globally in this particular forecast. So we're looking at whether the energies are looking easier or harder. What do we need to plan for? When I do this forecast, it is not channeled. I just have to chuckle a little bit. This is not channeled from some entity somewhere. This is coming from inner guidance and divine guidance. Okay. So I mention that because you can trust. Oh my gosh, my other cat is like howling. Yeah. Hello there. Crazy. I mentioned this in order to point out that you can trust the source. I think I would recommend caution and discernment with any messages that are channeled through beings that are channeled via beings, spiritual beings or aliens or ascended masters or whatever, that you have not personally vetted yourself, because there is so much hijacking of channeled, I'm going on a little tangent here, but there's so much hijacking of channeled information. You can guarantee that about 80% of channeled content, actually I'm seeing about 90% of channeled content has been hijacked, where a lot of it sounds really nice, but then there's threads of untruth in order to throw people off. And that's probably a whole other video that I did do a video on that. The problem with channeling, I think, is what it's called. It's on my YouTube channel, Psychic Protection Sanctuary. But anyway, I'm gonna just tell you what is coming through for me in each of these categories that I've chosen. Okay, makes sense? And also, not only is this going to be a forecast, but I'm going to give some suggestions that come to me of how you can handle the energies coming through for this year. So, let's see. Sandy says, hi, Maya. Tiffany says, Odin is smiling and watching with me. Hey, you guys. By the way, anybody who is kind of new to me, I recently moved from Kansas City to Tucson, Arizona. So that's why we have a lot of Kansas and Missouri people. Hi, everybody. Sahela says hello from Sahela in Renton, Washington. Hello. And we have many others of you watching as well. Okay, so some of my Facebook Lives are more interactive. This one is more me jibber jabbering and talking. I don't know why I'm using that word today. I never use that word. So I'm going to be talking, but don't be shy. Even if I'm in the middle of sharing a message, it does not offend me at all if you start typing in your own perspective or like adding to what I've said or whatever. It's all good, you guys. So the Facebook Live is intended to be interactive. So go for it. Okay, I'm going to get a drink. And then we're going to jump in. So far you've gotten a little bit of information about how timelines work, how they can shift. So we're looking at, first of all, what things are looking like. Oh my gosh, my cats are going crazy. What things are looking like on the planet as a whole. So I did a meditation, 45-minute meditation earlier today. So you wouldn't have to sit there and watch me bringing in information, because that can be kind of boring if I'm just sitting there meditating and like every once in a while talking. But this is going to be a combination, because I did bring in some information before, but I'm going to also bring in some information now. So let me look at what I've got and see what else is coming. So starting off generally looking at the planet as a whole. What's happening energetically with the planet? So these are the messages that are coming through. First of all, it's important for we on this planet Earth to understand that we are not alone. And as I say this, I'm getting images of all sorts of things. Spiritual beings, both benevolent and malevolent and neutral. So all three of those. So spiritual beings of all kinds, interdimensional beings, and then also what I would consider alien beings that are not of this earth, and then beings that are of this planet that are not generally known about. So intelligent beings. There's all of this reality that most of us don't see. So, okay, cat. My cats are going crazy, you guys. And I think part of it is to distract me a little bit, but we're not going to let that happen. You're going to stay right there on the desk. Okay, hold on, you guys. Okay, so my cat's looking at me. She's like, why couldn't I come up? So what's happening, right? So what's just happening with the cat? The cat was being interfered with in order to interfere with me, so I would get distracted. So we're having some interesting examples of things that might seem like nothing, but if you're really paying attention and using your discernment, you will see that they are something. So we're going to let Kitty up here because she's going to keep going crazy. Okay. Okay, child. Okay. So right now, it's important for us to understand on a planetary level that we're not alone. There's a lot happening. Oh my gosh. There's a lot happening that you might not be able to see. Okay. So that's an overall message to start this larger message. Part of what's happening overall on the planet with all of humanity is that more and more people are waking up and being able to see beyond what we thought was reality. So, like we think that reality is like the pen, and that we live in a house, and that we have whatever food in the refrigerator, and that our friend's name is so-and-so. Like we think we have arranged in our mind what reality is. What's happening on a planetary level right now is that a lot of what's been going on that's been beyond our vision, we collectively are waking up, and we're just barely beginning to be able to see and understand things in the world that we weren't able to before. So imagine a time when you woke up at night. You opened your eyes, and it took a little while for your eyes to orient themselves, and you could see that there was something in the room, but you couldn't really see what it was until your eyes fully adjusted. So right now, on a planetary level, many of us are at that point where we can't really make out what it is, but it's just starting to come into vision. Okay, so that's what's happening on a planetary level. There's so much, there's like mind-blowing amount of stuff going on beyond what we think is real. And you might start to notice that more and more people are waking up and able to see things going on in the world that we didn't see before. And by that, I'm talking about people having more of an understanding of what's going on with spiritual beings interacting with us, with the energies that are interacting with us, with agendas and secrets going on via people of power. A lot of that, all of that, the veil is just starting to get lifted. So that's a big thing that's happening on a planetary level. And then also it's like if reality was a dream, we're all starting to wake up. That's what's happening on a planetary level. Okay. I'm kind of getting a little more out there than I usually do in my Facebook lives, but this is what I'm getting. Okay. So hopefully that is clear as mud, and but I'll go into more detail as we go. Yeah, that's what I'm getting on a planetary level. The reality that's happening has been happening for eons. Okay. But we've been unaware. I wish I could remember what this exact story was, and you guys can remind me. Wasn't there an explorer? Okay, I can't, this is terrible. I should have looked it up and I can't remember now. There was an explorer who brought his ships to, he had his ships out in the ocean, and there were indigenous people on the shore who had never seen ships before. They had never seen them. So they didn't know what they were. So they were looking out onto the horizon, and all they saw was ocean and horizon. They didn't see the ships because it was not a part of their reality. Even though the ships were there, it was not a part of their reality construct of anything they had experienced before. Therefore, their eyes didn't even perceive those ships until the holy man, the medicine man, or the shaman, whoever it was, he was looking out to sea, and he started to see the ships, and he pointed them out to other people, and then they were able to see them. Okay. That is what is on the verge of happening. Okay. That's what I'm seeing. So I'm just sharing that with you. All right. Politics. What's going on here? Give me just a moment. Okay, so I'm seeing a recommendation for how we can deal with everything, and also a forecast of something happening. By the way, one of the ways that I do things differently, or how I see forecast, got cat hair on my nose, is I tend to not make specific predictions about so-and-so doing such and such. Basically, when it comes to politics, the same bullshit is going to still be happening. Okay, you got that. But what I feel is even more important, because there's always been bullshit and there's still going to be bullshit. Okay. What I feel is more important is how do we get empowered with that? Like, what are we supposed to do with that? So here's where your power is in terms of politics. We, as the people, no matter what nation you are a part of, we as the people, we're going to find our power in the quiet and the calm and the peace. That's how you're going to get clear vision on what actions need to be done politically, rather than getting reactive, because there's been way too much reactive energy. I know in the Western world, there's been tons of, let me turn this off, like way too much overreactive polarization and people getting angry about opposing groups. There's no power in that, you guys. There's no power in that. So the only way to handle things with power, let me reword that. The only way to make any impactful changes in 2020 is to find the true power, is to find that inner peace. And from that inner peace, you find the answers of what it is that you're supposed to do. What are you supposed to do? What action are you supposed to do in the world, rather than complaining about political groups? I'm seeing a lot of, as far as recommendations, I'm seeing that we really need to shift our energy away from complaining about the asshats, whatever we want to call them. And we need to shift the energy away from that and more towards the people, individuals, you taking actions, and not from a place of volatility or reactivity, but from a place of serenity, quiet strength. Okay. I am seeing, it feels like midway through the year, it feels like in Western culture, there's a lot of volatility. Okay. I don't know exactly what it is, but the energy feels like things are really getting shaken up. Volatile is definitely the right word. The middle of the year, it feels kind of crazy, to the point where a lot of individuals who are not in power, just us regular folks, are feeling very shaken up, even more so than usual, and feeling even more out of sorts and a little bit afraid. Definitely there's some kind of disruption energy that happens in the political arena. It does feel like it's, whatever this happens, it feels like it's in America, United States. But by the end of the year, it feels like that disruption energy does clear. So it feels like everything turns out okay. Like there's this major rumbling. It feels like I see and feel rumbling. It's like a mountain that's rumbling in the middle of the year when I'm feeling into the political energy. But by the end of the year, that rumbling has stopped. The people, empathically, I feel like people feel a little bit shaken up, but everything's okay. And the energy is clearing. Okay. So if something crazy happens, just know that it really does look like everything is going to clear. Let's look at money energy for 2020. Let me see if there's any comments. Okay. Robert says, hi, Maya. Hi there. Brian says, hi, Maya. Video keeps stopping and starting for me. We'll have to watch the replay if possible. Okay. Gosh, I hope that's not on my end, but it looks okay on my end. Erica says, I feel like I can start telling my friends more about what I believe Not every one of them, but some I believe are shifting. That's great. Janice says, go deep, listen, and pray. Yes, that's it. That's it. So shifting away from that reactive mode and like those liberals or those conservatives or those Democrats or those Republicans or those whatever party you're complaining about, whatever country you live, we've got to shift away from that polarization, and we've got to go deep, listen, and pray. Find that inner guidance. And my animals are calming down now. Thank goodness. That was driving me crazy. Let's look at money. What money is feeling like in 2020. Okay, what it feels like to me in 2020 is that, and now this is good, we're getting to more nuts and bolts, because the messages before were like really airy-fairy, which is okay, you guys. But I always feel like I want to give you nuts and bolts because that's what relates to your actual life, okay? So I'm feeling like regarding money in 2020, it feels like the middle class in the Western world, and I live in the Western world, so I apologize if you don't. I want this to be very global, but when I tune into money, that's what I'm picking up on is the feeling in the Western world. It feels like the middle class is definitely thriving more in this year. Okay. So it feels like it just feels like there's less struggle. Things feel, the finances feel a lot stronger for many households. Things are looking up. Things are improving a couple of notches. Upper class feels pretty much the same. I mean, they don't really need help, right? They're doing fine already. Working class and the poor, which I'm breaking into two different categories. So the people in poverty who are really, really struggling, and working class people. This positive effect takes a little bit longer. So there's less of an impact on the people who are struggling more. It's the middle class that ends up feeling this financial prosperity more. I'm not saying that's how I want it to be, you guys. I'm saying that's what I see happening. But I do see that there's some trickle down effect where there are some people who have been experiencing poverty, which, by the way, I've been there. I know. So some people who have been experiencing poverty are able to improve a couple of notches, but I'm seeing that almost all of the middle class is positively impacted in very tangible ways. It looks like they're able to shift up a notch or two, like pretty much throughout Western society. It feels stronger, but then there's not as many people who are in working class or who are experiencing poverty who are going to feel that, unfortunately. But it does feel like in a couple of years, so like 3 years, it feels like that finally starts to trickle down in more of a tangible way to the people who are struggling even more. So hang in there, because the economy, oh, I don't even like using that word. It's going to get better for the middle class. It's going to take a little bit longer for those of you struggling more. But now, I'm not speaking to anyone individually here. We're looking at collective energies. So you might be on a different track. If you're experiencing poverty right now, for example, you may very well be able to move out of that. But overall, the collective energy is going more towards the middle class thriving right now and making improvements. Let's see here. A little bit more about money. Also on a planetary scale, what's coming up for people overall is to work through issues of negative ancestral programming regarding money, poverty programming. So now's the time to work on that. So as a collective, that's something that we're needing to work on. It is something that is impacting many people on the planet. So, because there have been so many generations of people on the planet who have experienced poverty, then that is programming that is within the DNA of so many people on the planet. So that is something that you as an individual can work on through setting intention, through prayer, through receiving energy work or doing energy work for yourself and even for the planet, for all people who are struggling with that. Okay. Also, there's a recommendation for how to shift your money blocks or money issues in 2020, and that would be to connect more with earth energy. Now, I'm not saying this just because I love earth energy. Many of you know that. This is what I'm getting for 2020, is that this is recommended for everybody to do, is to connect more with the earth. Now, a lot of people who are into spiritual stuff, which you may very well be since you're watching this, a lot of people who are into spiritual stuff are really not fully connected to Gaia, to earth consciousness. There are a lot of people whose personal energy is outside of their body, above. They're wanting to connect more with, with spiritual energy, with the beyond, because it feels better. But that is going to block your prosperity. You absolutely, this year, 2020, you absolutely have to not only spend time outdoors, connecting with the earth, feet flat on the ground, bare feet, but also working with your emotional blocks. A lot of people will probably fully admit that they don't really want to be here on the planet. And, you're going to really have to work on shifting that to where you're really committing to being here. You chose to be here. You wouldn't be here if you hadn't chosen it. You chose to come into a physical body and have a physical incarnation and to be a part of Gaia, of the consciousness that is Gaia, the planet Earth. And so you're going to have to work on some of that crap. Okay, you guys. And now we're going to look at wait, let me see. Did I miss anything? Oh, wait. Yeah. We're going to look at what types of spiritual growth are humans experiencing this year, 2020. So we'll look at that next. But let me get some comments. Brian says, it might just be the internet provider I'm on or this country, the UK. Yeah, I mean, it's reaching you a long ways away. Brian, okay. Yeah, Brian's talking more about his video. Hi, Jill. Good to see you. Okay, so right now I'm just tuning in a bit to what kind of spiritual growth we as humans, as a human collective, are going through. Okay, so what I'm seeing is humanity as a whole is not really having huge breakthroughs. Okay, humanity as a whole in 2020 is really in a holding pattern. Now, that doesn't mean that you are in a holding pattern, but mainstream. Okay, you might not consider yourself mainstream, but mainstream humanity, pretty much in a holding pattern, not really experiencing any big spiritual breakthrough growth in 2020. Now, with that being said, there are many of us who are not mainstream, who you might consider yourself a light worker. Some people don't like that term, but whatever you call yourself, right? You're not mainstream. You are a little more awake than you were before, right? And so many of us are this year going to be working behind the scenes, grow it personally and with groups, growing, expanding, learning, studying, mastering. And there are energy grids. So imagine grids of light. They're, but in a 3D fashion. So not 2D, not like graph paper, but in a 3D fashion. There are energy grids throughout the earth, around the earth, in the earth, encompassing the earth, that these grids have programming within them, and they're being programmed, these grids are being programmed with higher consciousness than before. So the earth itself, the energy body, you know, we talk about our energy body, our chakras, our aura. Well, the energy body of the earth in 2020 is receiving an upgrade. Okay, that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm seeing. And that later, okay, so what I'm seeing is that there's these energy upgrades that are happening for the earth, and what that's going to feel like is energy dissonance, like music that's out of tune, because the humanity will not have upgraded yet. So there's this very natural, it's just a very natural occurrence, this upgrade that's happening in the earth's grid work. And all of the beings living on the planet are not yet tuned to that frequency. So it kind of will feel like fingernails on a chalkboard. Some of our shadow stuff might come up more this year because the earth is healing. It might not feel like it, but the earth is upgrading and healing. And we will be, as a result of being on the planet, but before that happens, we're going to feel the energy dissonance. Again, it's going to feel like music that's out of tune, that's like, ugh, it's horrible to listen to, right? On a vibrational level, that's what's happening. But in a real life level, what it will feel like is your inner shadow, your unresolved crap is going to start to come up, unresolved traumas, unresolved feelings. All that stuff is just going to come dumping out. Okay. So if you end up feeling a bit out of sorts at times in this year, that's because you are being primed for your upgrade. That just you being planted on the planet, you will eventually begin to vibrate with the new frequency of the planet. Okay. But before that happens, you're going to feel that dissonance where you haven't shifted yet. Your vibration is how it has been, is the old way, right? And then the earth has this new higher vibration. And again, it feels like things are out of tune, but then you will shift to match just naturally. That feels like that shift of humanity to match the earth's new vibration is in 2021. Okay. So it's going to happen very gradually, by the way. And just to clarify, this up-leveling of the grids of the earth, I want to clarify with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek that there are not aliens that are initiating an ascension or anything like that. In fact, I want to do a video in the future about the ascension. What do I want to call it? It's really a lie. This popular idea that there are aliens that are causing the earth to ascend or whatever. That's BS, and I'm going to do a video and tell you why. But I'm not going to go on that tangent right now. But this upgrading of the energy grids of the earth, it feels very natural. Like on a smaller scale, it's very natural for a seedling to grow into a tree. It's just like it changes form and it grows. And there are processes that happen, right? That's totally natural. There's not some outside source making it happen. It's just something that happens as a natural result of the entire ecosystem, right? So that's this energetic shift of the planet is natural, totally natural. Brian says, I think the middle classes have been squeezed a lot here in the UK as well. Yep. Yep, yep. It feels like it's gonna flow easier, hopefully. I mean, that's what I keep seeing that. I keep seeing it's gonna flow easier for middle class. Okay, let me just tune in. How is humanity strengthening at this time? Because I talked about how mainstream humanity right now is kind of at a standstill. They're not really growing too much, unfortunately. Um, but those of us behind the scenes are doing a lot of growth work. That's good. And that the earth is growing and upgrading. But how are we strengthening? Let's look at ways that we actually are strengthening as a whole spiritually. Um, One of the things that's happening globally with people across the planet is that we are developing the ability to be able to accomplish things more effortlessly than before. Yes, many of us are still having to work hard. We still have to work to pay the bills, all of that. But we're up leveling to a point where we can manifest things more easily than we could before with less effort. Again, there's still effort that's happening, but we're moving into more effortlessness, less effort, less efforting than in previous generations. Okay. So that's a good thing. And I consider that part of our spiritual growth, being able to co-create with the universe in a way that flows more rather than like white knuckling it. There's more ease, less struggle. More and more of the population are learning this. And again, to emphasize, we still have plenty of struggle on the planet. But one thing that happens is that a few people start to have a particular breakthrough, and then more people, wake up to it. And that's what's happening. It's like a domino effect that more and more people are developing this ability to be able to go into more ease and grace rather than the really extreme struggle. Okay. So, whatever you may be experiencing in your own life, just know that the overall energy, the collective energy, is flowing towards more ease and grace. And so that means that you can flow with that. You can tap into that. So the collective energy isn't flowing in the direction of things working harder, being harder and more challenging. It's flowing into being easier. So that's going to work for your benefit. Okay. Okay, so I also asked Hi, Jennifer. I was just wondering how you were doing out there in Australia. I was thinking about you yesterday. What areas as a human race are we needing to work on in 2020? Where do we need to put our attention in our personal and spiritual growth? And what I'm getting an image of an iceberg that's a big part of it is submerged, and there's all this stuff that's being avoided that we're not looking at. And lots of emotional stuff. It's emotions. That's what it is. A lot of people on the planet are avoiding their emotions. That's what this message is about. The underneath, the submerged part of the iceberg is all repressed emotions, stuffed down emotions. And that's interesting to me that I'm seeing that that's an area to work on. That's where we've been falling short, because there's actually been a lot of popular spiritual practices that are encouraging not looking at and working with our submerged material. A lot of spiritual bypassing, a lot of just be happy, positive vibes only, and just like hanging out in the upper part of the iceberg, but not working on anything underneath. And meanwhile, all sorts of monsters are growing under there. So that's where we've been falling short, and that's an area that we really need to look at working on in 2020 is acknowledging where you might be dissociating from your true feelings, and where you might be using, whether it's, I talk a lot about New Age spiritual bypassing, but there's other ways that we bypass our emotions through eating, through overeating, because we all need to eat, but through overeating, through drugs, alcohol, misuse of sex, video games. I mean, like anything can be addictive. So engaging in those numbing kinds of activities. So that's something that we need to work on in 2020. Okay, so now we're getting into some of the deeper spiritual warfare stuff. So I'm going to get a drink and prepare. All right. And thank you for those of you who've made comments. They're always welcome. So I'll just repeat what I said before, that some of my Facebook Lives are very interactive. This one is more about me just speaking about whatever messages are coming to me about our 2020 forecast. But you're always welcome to share and have a little conversations there in the comments. Okay. All right. So what kind of negative interference, spiritual warfare, psychic protection kinds of issues are we looking at for 2020? So let me just look at that. So what kind of negative interference, negative spiritual interference is happening on the planet right now, 2020? Okay, so there's just I'm seeing a few different things. So there's an acknowledgement that there actually are a lot of beings of protection. Right away, I saw a male angel. I think a lot of you know that I don't necessarily trust every being that I encounter. I'm very discerning about whatever entities will show up or that I will be shown in a message. And through my discernment, I do feel like these beings that I'm being shown really are protective. There really are spiritual beings that are working on our behalf, that are assisting our planet with protection. Because remember what I said at the beginning of the message, at the beginning of the forecast, that there is a whole lot going on our planet beyond what most people can see. And that includes major spiritual warfare, and I'll just call it interplanetary conflict or whatever you want to call it. There's a lot going on that most people are not aware of, and there's simultaneously I'm seeing there's a lot of protection. That said, another message that's coming through about what we need to know about for this year is that I'm hearing and seeing the word beware. Beware. It's very strong. Beware, because there are a lot, tons and tons of wolf in sheep's clothing people and beings, entities, like you name it. That's the predominant thing, actually. There's tons of that. It's like almost entirely wolves in sheep's clothing. That's what I'm seeing. And what I mean by that is like so much of the channeling that people are doing is wolves in sheep's clothing. Like the spiritual being that is so convincingly showing itself as whatever, ascended master so and so or angel so and so, is not that at all. So there's like a major thing that's happening with spiritual warfare right now, and that has been, I don't know why, I'm seeing since 2016. I don't know why the shift, but that all of a sudden there's this upsurge in false light, okay, imposter entity issues, and it's definitely going strong all 2020 and 2021. 2022, it starts to break apart a little bit. That's good. I'm glad it's starting to, but it's super strong. So because of that, I would say be extra discerning. Do work on strengthening your spiritual abilities, your ability to discern. So if you want to take my 12-month program, or you want to study in some other way, it does not matter to me, but you absolutely have to develop your intuitive abilities, your ability to see, hear, sense energy, because otherwise you'll go to a spiritual event or whatever kind of event, and there's a person or spiritual being that's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Sometimes it's a person who's leading, and there's a false entity that's attached to the person. And the only way that you can protect yourself is for you to develop your own gifts, okay? Because that issue is very strong in 2020. So everybody needs to up their discernment game big time this year. Okay, also I'm seeing, sorry to say this is a really creepy image, but I'm seeing an insect laying eggs. So it's like a parasitic kind of insect laying eggs. This is symbolic. Okay, parasitic insect laying eggs on the water, and so there's this larvae, I guess is how you say it, that's growing, and that is eventually going to hatch, but it's going to be in that growth state, that larval state, for a while. So what I'm seeing is that there actually there's some negative spiritual activity that's being, there are plans being made. How should I put this? There are plans being made by the negative powers that be. There are eggs that are being set upon the water, laid upon the water, right? That are growing, and that it looks like in 2022, those hatch. Okay, so it's interesting because I was seeing in 2022 there's a lot of energy volatility that I see happening in 2022, that the false light starts to, like, the facade starts to crack, but there's also an upsurge in like truly dark energy just pouring in. So knowing that those eggs are being laid right now, I know that's super gross, but it's like these larvae that are really gross looking. Again, that's not literal. It's more of a symbolic message. But knowing that means that now not only do we need to up-level our discernment, but now is the time to learn how to empower yourself and your family, not out of fear, but just like if you knew that you were going to take an important test next week, you would study for it. And then you would go in, you would take the test, you would do great and ace the test because you prepared. Well, we want to prepare for this energy cycle. And by the way, there are all sorts of energy cycles. There's ebbs and flows of positive and negative in the cosmos. And so, yeah, I don't like seeing that there's going to be some volatility in 2022 as far as spiritual warfare, but it doesn't alarm me anymore because I've seen so much stuff. It doesn't really alarm me. It just tells me, oh, make sure that you take time right now and learn your techniques. I'm going to give you some suggestions here in a moment. Also, as far as spiritual warfare, I'm seeing an image of a really dark cloud. I'm seeing different images of like a big dark cloud over one region of land, the center of the United States, actually. That's what I'm seeing. And then there's other little pockets of super dark clouds over other regions. There's some, I'm sorry to say, over parts of England. I don't know why I'm seeing, there's something weird going on in Finland. I don't know, but it's this little tiny little dark cloud over there. But suffice it to say, there are, if you think about the land masses on the planet, there are super dark clouds over portions of many of those. And not literally dark clouds, but there are areas, entire populations that are really taken over by that. If we were to ask who's in charge energetically of those areas, it's not the good guys. Okay. So as far as the spiritual realm, but again, energies ebb and flow and shift. So that's what I'm seeing right now. There are things that we can do to shift this. So right now I'm going to bring in a message about suggestions for you, for protection, for all of us, for protection and empowerment. Okay? Yeah, Nichelle says, dark clouds, frown face. Yeah, yes. Well, it is the reality. And like I said at the beginning of this message, there are more people that are waking up and able to see and feel. Some of you don't see energy, but you've been able to feel that something is not right, and you feel this oppressive energy depending on where you're living. I know in Kansas City, at the beginning of 2019, there were several people that started to feel this really oppressive energy. And they felt super depressed and like just horrible, but they couldn't put their finger on why. And meanwhile, I was feeling that, but I was also looking up into the sky and I was seeing this whole, like all this dark energy coming in. And that's been happening in a lot of areas, but this is not the first time this has happened. This is not the first rodeo. So, this is part of the ebb and flow. And so let's look at some things that we can do to empower. Yeah, Kenzie says the middle of the United States is Kansas City. Well, not just Kansas City, like Midwest. It's a big cloud. It's a big ass cloud. Couple comments before we go on to this part. Megan says, the negative entity that was posing as my spirit guide said there are trillions like him. I am not surprised. Yeah, honestly, I think maybe we should all be glad that so many people can't actually see what's really going on. Because it would be overwhelming. And I'll say that when I first started to be able to see this stuff, I've been clairvoyant for much of my life, but it wasn't until 2016 that I started to be able to see the certain frequency where I could see the false light stuff. I could see the dark entities way more than before. And I'll say I went through a period of major existential crisis and depression and despair. And so now if I'm kind of talking about it like, oh, it's no big deal, I've had a couple of years to adapt. Okay. And so I'm in a good position to be able to guide us, I think, in positive things that we can do. Because I've had some time to move out of what's the word that I want to use? Shock. I think it was shocking. It was very shocking when I could see all of that. Okay, so let's look at suggestions for protection and empowerment. These are pretty concise, so if you want to grab a pen and paper and write these down, this is what I recommend for everybody. Okay, specifically for this year, for managing all of this. And this is going to help you in your life with any personal psychic protection issues that you're having. And also it's going to help globally, because I know you all want to help globally. Okay. These are in no particular order. Suggestion. Hi, kitty. Number 1 is prayer. Whatever that is for you. It could be meditation. It could be sitting in silence. It can be talking to the divine, whatever that is for you. Prayer, fill in the blank with whatever that is for you. Okay? And there's different kinds of prayer. There's prayer asking for what you need. There's prayer, asking for blessings for the planet. There's just, well, there's other kinds of prayer too. I won't go into all of that. But all of the above. Okay, just prayer. Number 2, it's vitally important that you connect with what I'm going to call your spiritual team. Okay, there are some people who are choosing to not work with any spiritual team because of the false light issue, and you want to make sure that you're never working with a false light being. And I get that. I support it. If you want to do that until you can develop your discernment, then that's okay. So then developing a relationship with your spiritual team would be about really connecting with divine source, whatever that is for you, and connecting with your own spirit and developing a relationship there. However, when I speak about spiritual team, I'm talking about connecting with your guardian angels or your spirit guides, as long as you have vetted them and asked them to prove that they are really beneficial, and err on the side of caution with whoever you choose to work with. But do, perhaps choose some benevolent beings to be in your team to support you. If you happen to be Christian, then Jesus is a great one to work with, because he's a major spiritual warrior. I bring that up because it just popped into my head as an idea, and I was raised in the Christian tradition, but I'm not promoting any particular religious dogma here in this video. Go with what works for you. Okay. Number 3, to help with your protection, to help on the planetary level, help your personal empowerment, is to take right action daily. And so that means act with integrity, be a good person. You're not always going to be perfect. You're going to have days where you lose your temper or you get annoyed with a person in traffic because you're just not feeling well that day. That's human, okay? But you want to just do your best to be a person of integrity, to be kind towards other people and other beings, taking right action, practicing that on a daily basis. Number 4, I was seeing also that it's very important for our protection and empowerment to clean up the planet. Literally, like clean up the pollution. I know that not all of us are in a position where we can, go make a major impact on that, but you can make an impact in your own world as far as how much trash you create. If you dump something somewhere, your daily actions can have an impact. Also, what I was seeing is that the pollution and the discord, so the literal physical pollution of the water and the trash and all that, and all of the emotional and interpersonal discord and the societal discord, both the physical pollution and the discord feed negative entities. And so all of that is feeding all of these trillions of negative beings. And that's why it's one reason why it's important that we clean up our planet. Plus, this is the place where we live. We need to clean our room. Mother says we need to clean our room. You don't want to live in a toxic waste dump, right? Also, let's see what else. So those are the first four suggestions, but let me see what else is coming. Also, it's important for you to simplify your life. So we as a collective of humanity, we've made life too complicated, and that also makes us more vulnerable to this spiritual warfare issues. We're prime targets because we're not centered, we're not grounded, we're not spiritually connected, because we're just caught up in anxiety and busyness and all of that. So we need to return to that childlike innocence, to simplicity, a simple life, simple joys, beauty. Okay, so see what you can do to create a little bit more of that in your life. That actually is going to help with this larger global issue. Also, it's important for all of us to work on connecting more, not only with the earth, not only with earth energy, with dirt, with soil, but with the cycles of the planet. Okay, so with the seasons, with night and day, with the cycles of the moon, with all of that, because we have forgotten that we are part of the body that is Gaia. We're part of her. So, and the more disconnected we are, the more vulnerable we are spiritually. So it's about getting reconnected. And when we do that, then it creates this, it's interesting. It looks like this web of life. Like the more we connect with the cycles of the planet, it helps to create this positive web of life that is protective. It's like this protective barrier from those nasty insects, symbolically insects. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. And the best psychic protection is to be, is to learn to live from a place of peace. Easier said than done, I know. And if you're in the middle of experiencing psychic attacks, spiritual warfare, you might not, like, just feeling peace isn't going to get rid of an entity, okay? I'm talking about more preventative and how to create your life in such a way that those things would, oh my gosh, someone's at the door. Those things would not happen in the first place. Hopefully they will go away. I'm busy. Okay. All right. So we're going to go over our last point. Now, I live in an apartment now, and I've had to get to the point where I post a sign. I didn't post a sign. I have to put something big on my door. And even when I do, people still ring my doorbell at random times. It's really weird. As an introvert myself, it's so weird. Like, I'm one of those people, I don't know about you guys, but if someone shows up at my house and they haven't called ahead of time, it's like, why are you here? Anyway, that's just part of me living at my new place. Our last message is how to make the world a better place within your own life. So we talked about that a little bit, but let's go a little bit deeper. So we've acknowledged we have these really challenging spiritual energies that are on the planet, that are part of the planet. So what can you do within your own little life to make your own life better and to then have a positive ripple effect out into the planet. Okay, so I have 3 things. You can write these down if you want to. Harmony, creating harmony in every area of your life. Your physical body needs more harmony. That means yoga or breathing, breath work, stretching, going out and getting fresh air, getting your body to calm down. Your body's health, getting your health back into harmony as much as you can. You don't have total control over that though. Your relationships, working to get your relationships back into harmony. Because the more out of balance we are, the more vulnerable we are to all of this negative activity. And just imagine if everybody on the planet, I know it's like a fantasy, just imagine if everybody on the planet was able to shift into a place of harmony, inner harmony, then all of those negative beings wouldn't have anything to feed off of. Now, it's kind of unrealistic, I'm going to say, if everyone on the planet shifted to that. But you can work on it. And it's a practice. Like, obviously, you're going to have days where you do not feel harmonious, but it's a daily practice of consciously working toward that. Number 2, again, we talked about this before, connecting with the earth, growing things, recycling, taking care of the planet. And then the 3rd thing we haven't talked about yet, and that is to understand that we are all, I know this is so trite, but to understand that we are all one. And what I mean by that is that we aren't these different citizens of different countries or people of different races. We are humanity. And not only that, but we are also connected with all of our ancestors from the beginning of the beginning. Okay? So it's not just us on the planet alive right now, but all of our past ancestors and our future ancestors. All of us, we are one. So we need to think in terms of that, because there's so much separation. There's like those people in that country, or those people who are in that other class than me, or whatever. That's not helping us spiritually. So it's important that we remember that we are all one. We need to know. Also, it's important for us to tap in to our elders, the knowledge that they have, and our ancestors. So that was a lot. Whew. Okay, so again, this was different than the kind of forecast where they talk about like who's going to win the presidency and what, I don't know, stuff like that. You can get that stuff elsewhere. Like that kind of stuff is everywhere. Look for it online. You can do a Google search. What I wanted to share with you today is what's going on spiritually. How can you help? How can you help? How can you grow spiritually this year? What's going on with spiritual warfare? What to expect? How to get more empowered? So that's it. That's our message. And we went longer than usual. We went almost 90 minutes. So thanks for sticking with me. I don't see any more comments. Oh, yes, I do. I see more comments. Sahela says, I think I can see evil entities in the clouds. Yeah, Sahela says, I've never told this to anyone before. Sahela, I think you and I should talk about that, because we can schedule some time to do that. Brian says, since realizing that there is a spirit in my house, I have noticed it elsewhere, strange energies. It might not be something new though, but maybe I have just more recently become sensitive to it. I wonder if it is more common than people realize that there are spiritual energies in houses and elsewhere. Oh yes, like they're everywhere. Like there's energies and spirits and entities all over. They're all over. They're just everywhere. Sahela says, I kind of freak when someone just shows up at my door. Yeah, I am a self-proclaimed major introvert. Even though I can be talkative, I'm a major introvert. So I already told one of my neighbors to please text me before you come over. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what that was about later. Jeannie says, thank you so much, Maya. Rose says, thanks, Maya. Anna says, thank you. Well, thank you everybody for being here. And you can always watch more videos. Sometimes I have people who email me and they say that they are binge watching all the videos on my YouTube channel. So if you want to get more, you can go to youtube.com and then type in Psychic Protection Sanctuary and be sure to subscribe to that channel. And then if you want to work with me more and go more deeply, then you can do that by going to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. And there you'll find all sorts of information on there. You'll find information about my 12-month program, which some of you are in. It is awesome, isn't it? And then also there's information about one-on-one sessions. Tana says, good to see you. Thank you. You're welcome, everybody. I think I'm going to go ahead and sign out. But before I do, I think I'm going to remind everybody, if you haven't already gotten my book, Darkness Disguised as Light, The Hidden Truth About Psychic Protection and the Illusion Matrix by me, Maya Zahira, then you can get it on Amazon. And gosh, I have like 5 more books inside of me that have not yet been written, but this one has been written and you can get it for under 20 bucks. So go over and get it right now. Sahela says, thank you, Maya. Thanks, everybody. Again, I will continue to put out as much free content as I possibly can on a monthly basis. So I will see you all next time. Bye.